This week on The Real Housewives of Orange County.
You don't want to take accountability for what you do.
I won't
You go low.
accountability.
You go so low when you're mad. And we all need to say, it's okay. Tamra can go low because that's just who she is.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be recapping the new episode of The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 19, Episode 10. Let's get right into it. Okay, so wow, 10 weeks of RHOC. Let's get into it. So we begin, they showed a whole bunch of scenes with the women. In particular, they showed Shannon doing a facial and she had her daughter with her. The daughter was doing also some sort of, I think Shannon called it anti-aging procedure. Why are we doing these procedures when you're like 20-something? Drink water, moisturize, and eat right, and you're going to be fine. So then Shannon gets a call from Tamra. Tamra is inviting her to a girls trip to Temecula, California. There's a private resort and a vineyard. It's going to be a fun day. It's just for a night. Shannon's like, oh, okay, well, thank you for the invite. You know, Shannon's being cordial. She's responding and talking, but she's not 100% like, oh my God, yes. You know, she's just like, oh, okay. And you can tell Tamra is trying to act very cheery and very nice. So that was that. Then we see Emily and Tamra go shopping. Emily's daughter is in cheer, and she's talking about how much goes into that. You know, her being a cheerleader, she has to get up early, go to practices, go to competitions. It's just like an athlete, basically. But also, she has to do her hair and makeup, so that's another thing added. Tamra then tells Emily, you know, I called Shannon to invite her to the trip, and she was a hot mess. Her hair, her breasts, her attitude. And this is what I'm telling you, this is the problem with Tamra. On the phone call, she sounded like such a sweet, nice lady and lovely, inviting her to the trip. And now look at how she's talking about Shannon. So then we see Gina, Jen, and Shannon. It's interesting because Gina's daughter is also in cheer. So at the competition that Emily was mentioning earlier, that she just went to, Gina was there also because of her daughter. Jen tells them that she got a call from Tamra inviting her to the trip. She asks them if they got the call too, and they say yes. Shannon's like, yeah, I mean, I didn't want to answer the phone, but yes, I did. And she says, I don't want to go back to last year. She also says that she spoke to her therapist about this, and the therapist basically told her, listen, you're capable of coexisting, you know how to do it, you'll be fine. Jen says, I pretty much feel the same way because you can have fun with Tamra until you don't. It's like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Then moving along to Heather. Apparently she has a podcast. I can't keep up with these podcasts. I didn't even know she had one. She films it and records it in New York, I think she said. And in this scene in particular, she recorded an episode with a transgender influencer. Apparently they're really good friends. Heather says that on the podcast she was mentioning how she has 4 different kids with 4 different genders, and she's just very like into the, you know, LGBTQ conversations in the spaces and the communities. All right, so then the next scene is Emily and Jen. They go to an animal shelter. Jen fosters animals. She's got like 10 animals, which she can't even pay her bills, but she keeps getting all these animals. I mean, I hope she can take care of them. But basically what they're doing is they're volunteering. They're volunteering at the shelter, cleaning up cages, things like that, feeding the animals, playing with them as well. Jen then asks Emily how she's doing with Luke, with her son, and Emily's talking about it, but mainly how her and Shane are very split because Shane feels like their son is being coddled at times and that his negative behavior is like being rewarded instead of it being shut down. She doesn't agree with that, so they're kind of in conflict when it comes to that. So pretty much the same thing we've been hearing this far this season when it comes to that situation. So then the women begin to pack for their trip. But here's the thing I didn't realize. Heather calls Emily to have a sleepover. I didn't realize that Emily and Gretchen were not invited to Tamara's trip. I thought all of them were. I thought it was an all casting, but no. So that means that Heather will do something with Emily and with Gretchen, and then all the other ones will go over there to California, to that vineyard. Tamra, we see a little scene of her talking to her daughter as she's packing. I will say, when I see these little scenes with Tamra and her kids, it does humanize her just a little bit more. It just makes her a little bit more real. Kind of like with Giselle Bryant. They can be like the villains and things like that, but when you see these family scenes, it makes you see them in a bit of a different light. So it's the day of the trip. The women pull up to Tamara's house and they get going. When they're on the ride, they're all joking. Shannon's making them laugh a lot. They get there pretty quick. The place is very nice. Tamara gave Shannon the primary bedroom, which it felt very evident, like, oh, are you like trying to like pander to me? I don't know why Shannon brought a suitcase that literally had pans and bakeware and a blender. What? I guarantee you she probably didn't even use none of that. Meanwhile, Emily and Gretchen head over to Heather's place in Beverly Hills, and as soon as they sit down, Heather's like, so how was the ride? What did y'all talk about? And Emily's like, oh, well, we talked about Tamra and how she and Jen might not be so good again because a few days ago I was talking with Jen, and it sounds like Jen is a little bit bothered again about the fatty photo that Tamra showed you, that she showed Heather. So then what does Heather do? She tries to downplay this thing again, which she's been doing from the very beginning. She tries to spin it and say, oh, but what she meant was, you cannot spin the intention of why she pulled out that photo in the first place. Like, you just can't do it. So the other ladies over there in the Vineyard get on some motorcycle type car things, and then they get going to where they're going next. Then Heather and the girls, the three of them, are walking around Rodeo Drive, and a lady approaches them who's a paparazzi. And this lady just randomly goes up to them and says, she did not call the paparazzi on us. Talking about Heather. And she's like, she did not call us to go there. I know that for a fact. It was just a random shot. She never called us to be there. Okay. Heather, where'd you find this lady and how much did you pay her? Because what was that? Then they go to this insanely expensive restaurant, and Heather's paying for everything, so that's nice. That's one thing I will give her. She is very generous. All right, so back at the Vineyard. The ladies are having a dinner outside. It looked very nice. But here's the thing. Things are going well. And, when you're in a situation, you kind of just want to go with the flow, go with the moment. Sometimes you don't want to address things because that can kind of ruin the vibe. And I'm saying this because, they're having a good time. Tamra just starts saying, Shannon, you're liking me, right? You like me again. And she says the same thing to Jen. She's like, Jen likes me too. And they're kind of just sitting there like, we're doing all right. Like, don't push her. Like, settle down. By the way, I have to say this. They were tasting some wine, and they have, like, one of those spit buckets. And Jen and Tamara made a comment about something that I think is so vulgar and so disgusting. If these women were my mother as saying these things on TV, I'm sorry, I would be so upset. Like, it's one thing to be open. It's one thing to talk about adult things, but I think there's a line. I'm sorry. After they finish eating, they then walk around the Vineyard, but Tamara and Gina head one way, and then Shannon and Jen head another. Gina does tell Tamara, Jen is really upset that you showed Heather a fat photo. But then Tamara is like, oh, well, I really hate that Heather would take it and spin it in that direction. Oh my gosh, does Tamara know how to spin things? So now she want to put it on Heather, that it was Heather the one that brought this to the group in a different way, even though Heather's been defending her. Isn't that crazy? So going back to the other ladies, Emily asks Heather how does she like it now that she's full-time in LA. Heather really likes it. She was recently invited to be in a musical, and she's had a blast. She's taken vocal lessons and things like that. You can tell that's what she really likes to do. Emily then says to Heather, so the other day I met with Jen, and Jen asked me if I thought that you pacified Tamra because you're scared of her. Heather is like, well, what was your response? And Emily's like, I don't remember. Which is hilarious because they then show us a flashback of Emily being the one actually saying it. So Emily's a phony. But anyway, Emily says that during the lie detector test, Heather was asked, are you scared of Tamra? And Heather's response was yes. But Heather tries to downplay it, and she's like, oh, well, what I meant was that I was scared in the moment because it was right after New Orleans. Here's the thing. Yes, Heather is scared of Tamra But to a certain extent, I think they all kind of are too. Like, Heather is definitely scared of Tamara going after her. I think the only two women that were not scared of Tamara at all were probably Kelly Dodd and Vicki Gunvalson. Because even to a certain extent, I'm sorry, Gretchen is a little scared of her too. Because don't think for a second she would have lied about the whole thing with Katie had she not been a little scared. Also, I gotta say, the fact that we got 0% of Katie it felt a little off, a little weird. I know she didn't shoot any more scenes, but they could have at least shown some family scenes. I wouldn't have minded maybe like a 2 minute or even a minute and a half of her and Matt with the kids. That would have been nice. It felt a little bit weird without her. So the last scene of the episode is the girls at the Vineyard, and they go to like this place. They were having some more wine and things like that. Tamara then asks Jen, do you still feel like we're not totally resolved, or like what are you feeling? And Jen says, yes, I keep hearing about a fatty photo. Like, what was the intent of that? Tamara says, well, I brought up that photo too. I was just trying to say that you changed. Like, you were this timid, shy girl, and you just changed a lot. And then Jen's like, yes, I lost weight because when I was in my first marriage, I wasn't happy. By the way, they're acting like Jen was 600 pounds or something. It's ridiculous. But anyway, Jen asks Tamara, okay, you say I changed, but like, how did I show any difference in our friendship? Tamara says, well, let me give you an example. We were in Cabo back in the day, and Ryan said to us, I'm in love with Jennifer. I said to him, but she's married. And then he says to me, yeah, but she won't be anymore. And Ryan was staying in her house. So yeah, we felt bad that here we were with your new boyfriend, and meanwhile your husband was friends with us. I get what Tamara's saying, but she's a little hypocritical because she had an affair too. You know what I mean? So she's not any better. Jen then says, can I see the picture? So Tamara shows it. Jen's like, oh yeah, that's a disgusting picture. What kind of made me laugh was Gina saying, I don't think it's a flattering picture for either one of you, to be honest. With Tamara or Jen. So then Tamara says, I'm sorry, I really am. I was mad, but I do like this version of you. I do. And then Jen says, but it doesn't feel like that. So Tamara's trying to apologize. What she likes to do is that she wants to apologize and like just own it real quick and like make it disappear. But Jen's kind of pushing back a little bit. So that's when Tamara starts to get very agitated. And she's like, I apologize. What else do you want from me, blood? So that's where Shannon has had about enough by now. Because during this whole exchange between Jen and Tamara, Shannon had been quiet. But she finally explodes and she says, you know what, Tamara? You don't take accountability of what you do. When you're mad, you go so low, and we're all supposed to say that's okay because that's just what Tamara does. But you know what? None of us go that low, but you do. And then Tamara's like, well, you go behind people's backs. And what about the 10 years that I was there for you as a friend through your divorce and everything else? Shannon's like, yeah, and you bitched about it and said that I was sucking the life out of you. You haven't been in my life for a year, and I have never been happier. You have no idea how hard last year was. You attacked me every single day, constantly about my drinking. Tamara's like, well, I don't want to go back, but you were drinking a lot, and you were saying a lot of things. And even Gina says that she's worried about your drinking. Whoa. She just threw Gina under the bus. And it's funny because it's true. Gina did say that. So now Shannon's shocked. She's like, wait, what? And Gina's like, well, yeah. She had said that to Tamara earlier. But again, it goes to show you that Tamara will throw anybody under the bus. So Gina's going to have to answer for that. But that was the end of the episode. Kind of boring until the ending. I like Shannon popping off at Tamara. But you guys, let me know what your thoughts were about the episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.